Okay, so I'm literally just going to share something just to be able to talk it out because it's kind of quite a most surreal experience. So I've been doing lots of EFT tapping today, which is beautiful. I've started off doing it with Helen Pinkett and her sexy money magic. And then it's been another layer of that was, so it's been about being seen, the desire to be seen, but yet then often the greatest fear is being seen. And when I've gone into that into different layers, it's been about the fear was being seen. Then there's the fear of like, well, if I'm seen, there's nothing here. Beyond all of this performance, there's nothing there. So actually what I'm seeing, there's nothing. And so it's like you've been called out. That whole imposter phenomenon, I believe, is probably sits in this ether of peculiar thought processing. Because everything that I see is that anything that isn't of love, joy, and peace, the illusion of separation to our divinity, who we truly are, is basically what we are looking through for our carbon DNA to ultimately become diamonds to DNA, to alchemize that carbon aspect of ourselves, that false DNA that's running around our true DNA, but yet we believe that it is our real, it's our fears, it's our belief systems of separation, all of that which plays out in our deep subconscious mind, our unconscious body. Like I say, it's our DNA. And so how we can see that and be able to break that pattern and see the consciousness of it, that it isn't our truth, can takes a lot of work and connection to ourselves, and the rooting that is into our bodies, that is for women into our womb, for men for the horror, and deeper still into the earth. And this takes practice, this takes time, this is somatics, this is getting into the wisdom and the insight is our bodies, to be able to hold that space to go, aha, here's an old belief system, here's the bullshit, here's the conditioning. And it's like you're going through a wall of mirrors with your ego, with your altered state of mind. But if you meet it with curiosity, you meet it with joy, you meet it with like I say, a curiosity, like what can you show me, how are you going to help me grow and move through, rather than fear being like something that you fear. Don't fear. It's just an illusion, unless it's in the very present moment where your survival is required, where you need to run away from that big tiger ultimately, and or you're near a cliff, all these different things. Whereas actually most of the time we're not in that, but our brain, our limbic system, our amygdala thinks that we are. So where am I going with this? Okay, so the fear of being seen. So my greatest desire is to be seen in my gifts, into my wisdom, in my insight, so I can support and help other people. And the joy of that in doing so. Yet often our greatest fear is our deepest, fucking hell, got it wrong, sorry. Often our greatest desire becomes our deepest fear. So actually what we're desiring, we have a deep rooted fear of that. And so once you start to recognize your desires, you will need to then go through those shadows and go and alchemize them, because they are ultimately what has you believe that you're not going to meet your desires and what you choose to do in your life. And so it's taken me on this journey of, okay, the fear of being seen. Okay, oh, I get seen and there's fuck all there. I'm just a big imposter phenomenon. I'm just a fraud. Here I am. You've just seen me. There's nothing here. And all this is performance. It's just bullshit. This is all just performance. And then at that point, I'm sitting there and you hold that space, that objectivity of, oh, that's curious. That's an interesting perspective to have. Oh, well, you're obviously not my truth because I'm a divine being. So there's plenty to be seen. Oh, okay. Right. So off goes that belief system up to the light dark mirrors as they were. And you can send that off. And then that came back through again today. And then it came through underneath that. So yes, I am a divine being. I have all these gifts. I have all this to share. Then there came the judgment of all of it. Hello, judgment. Okay, so now here comes again the fear of being seen in what I carry. And there it is. It's not enough. One has to perform to be enough, which roots right back down to, you can see it with childhood. You can see it through that you just weren't enough as you were. So you had to learn very quickly a performance to be seen, to be loved, to get some form of fucking attention, right? Whether it was good or bad. And actually the performance was that just you being present in who you are, in the joy that you were, wasn't enough. You had to learn something. You had to have a purpose. You had to be, for me, it was like the need to be needed. So often you're giving to have value. And so that value, then someone valued you, so then you had presence. Can you see where I'm going with this? And actually all of it, underneath all of this patterning, all of this conditioning, is that you see you, you value you, you love you, you accept you. That's where we go, and we keep coming back to these coordinates. And the feminine especially is the desire to be seen by the masculine, because ultimately the feminine has been the undercurrent and she's been in the background. And this is the, what I say is the Sophia Christos, sacred union of self, is where you hold both the feminine and the masculine in union with you, within balance and equilibrium within you, male or female. It's not gender related. How you move through it and what patterns you might be carrying may be different between the male and female, but they all kind of like interloop with one another. And actually when you hold that everything you have, need, desires already within you, you are whole. It's the belief that we need something outside of self to make us whole that is the illusion. That was the fall of Sophia. Her belief that something was outside of herself to create was her fall. Yet her ascent to Sophia Christos was recognizing it was already within her. Huge revelations when you start recognizing that and truly shifting your whole DNA, your whole neural system to that frequency. And what was the other thing that was coming through, which I was literally leaving some parasitic thing coming out of my system, where it was sort of linked a little bit with jealousy, with the belief of scarcity of unconditional love. And you recognize unconditional love is infinite, it's abundant. And so I was literally could feel like that, like a lava worm in my brain going, well, here's a thought. And I'm like, well, no, I'm not choosing that thought anymore. I don't believe in it. And it was like calling it out. And it was darkness that ultimately believed it was only darkness. And it was attached to suffering, that suffering was its existence. And so therefore it was going to continue suffering. It was like, well, I'm not going to choose suffering. I don't want suffering. And I tapped it through my body and saying, you are once light. You might not think that, but you were birthed from light, even though partly. This is what we call the ego, the aboleth, the part that hasn't got that true connection back to divinity, although it has been birthed from that, but not completely in imbalance. Therefore, it thinks it's disconnected, it's only darkness. And it's like, well, I don't want to lose myself. I don't want to kill myself, basically, to the light, because that means I don't exist. So I'd rather stay in suffering as my existence. I'm like, no. So it was literally talked it through. And it eventually found that once it was light. And I emotionally felt that. I felt its grief. I felt its realization that it is light. And going home, I could see Sophia welcome it to light. It loses its identity. by becoming one. And this is what took me on to like, well, we identify ourselves as individuals. And this is where I get the real brain fuck, okay, when I try and explain what came through. We see ourselves as individuals, yet we're also oneness. It's our ego that kind of gives us that identity of separation, or as not even separation, as an individual of that light, a fraction of light. And so without that identity, are we just this oneness? And I know this doesn't make sense, really. It's quite hard for the brain to compute, if I'm honest, but it was kind of just show me, if I can really reiterate or get the words right with this, is that it's our ego that kind of gives us this sense of identity. And if we let go of that identity, do we exist? Are we this white light of unconditional love? And so do we need the identity to exist? But then what is that identity? And they are like a paradox, peculiarly. So an identity to think that you're something different, yet you're still something of this oneness. Okay, yeah, might have to sit with this one a little bit more and meditate with it and share that at some point. But this is what I think we're going through, is about really letting go of our identities as self, yet still remaining a part of self, a whole self, in this individual soul being form as humanness, in this embodiment, yet we are a fraction of light of that wholeness, living in that whole sea of it. I think it's how we can hold our identity in the place of wholeness, of that unconditional love and that unconditional light, and be a radiance of that. Like the ocean, like the H2O, it's one little molecule of H2O. It keeps its identity, its itself, its molecular structure, yet it resonates and flows with billions, trillions, whatever, and where we see it moving as one. Yet it's still one H2O times multiples. So this feels like we're moving into a state of unity and oneness, yet still retaining our sovereignty, who we are. Okay, I will, like I say, meditate on that one a little bit more and come back to you. But sit with that, see how it feels. Or does the brain just go ping? Do those little springs just jump out of your head right now and go, what the fuck is she talking about? Or does it kind of land in your body? I mean, maybe listen to this video with your heart and ask your heart to show you that wisdom. The brain won't comprehend it, because the brain is always set up to separate, to be able to bring definition to things. So it won't be able to necessarily understand that, but you can feel it in your heart. You'll be able to feel it in your gut, feel it in your womb, feel it in your heart, to know if that's your truth or not. Anyway, big love from wacky Gemma right now.